Hey guys, this is the mind of Lilith, and thank you for joining me today as I take a deeper look into the most recent episode of Love and Marriage Huntsville, Season 5, Episode 9. So in this episode, there are 3 scenes that I'll be discussing briefly. The first scene was with the guys playing basketball. This was the worst basketball game that I've seen in a very long time. All of these men, except Martell, looked like they were struggling. They were out of shape. And I find it funny that so many women are guilted and shamed for gaining weight after they have babies, after they work full-time jobs, after they take care of the kids in the house by themselves for the most part, do most of the housework. And we're expected to stay slim and trim and fit doing all this while men or husbands are allowed to let themselves go. I find it really, really strange that all the women on this show are beautiful and tucked and tight and their bodies are on point, and these men are looking like, what's happening right now? So at the end of the basketball game, Courtney and Marceau have a discussion about real estate. Courtney wants to get into real estate and make money that way, which is a great investment for him and his wife because they have the disposable income to invest in real estate. But Marceau, no, I would not want my husband working with Marceau. Marceau is positioning himself in Courtney's life the same way I'm sure he positioned himself in Martell and Melody's life. And if you guys remember in season 1 or season 2, Melody said that Martell's behavior changed after he started hanging out with the Scott brothers. I would not want my husband to be around a man who's a proud chauvinist. Courtney is an egalitarian. He respects his wife's intellect. He respects his wife's work ethic. He respects his wife's contribution to their success. And he's like, I'm successful because I respect my wife. I'm successful because we work together. And Marceau said something very interesting, which I'm not surprised about. He said that he was able to make $17 million in sales because he wasn't working with his wife. First of all, that's the cap. If he was making that much money off of sales or whatever he was doing, he would not have needed to ask the Holtz for anything. Okay. So yeah, he was like, he's only successful because he's not working with his wife. He would end up losing half of what he has in a divorce. And more than likely, it's because Marceau probably spends time away from his family cheating. He uses his work schedule to justify cheating with linebackers in Atlanta. That is why he can't work with his wife. If you guys remember, when Ariane interviewed with Tasha K, she said that the Scotts were in Atlanta with linebackers while she was with Martell, the bow-legged Ken doll. If Tisha and Marcel worked together, it would be harder for him to cheat on her, which is why they can't work together and which is why they probably end up getting a divorce. I'm not saying he would leave his wife or be sloppy like Martell, but he seems like the type of guy who's always working because work is an opportunity for him to, sleep with other women. He doesn't seem to be someone who's happy unless he's cheating. And this is why Ariane and Marceau and Maurice and Martell were in Atlanta together when they were supposed to be in committed relationships. So if I was Stormi, I would not want my husband around Marceau. He can be a consultant occasionally, but we're not going to be bosom buddies. We're not hanging out together. Absolutely not. In my opinion, Courtney is like a lick for all of them. Okay? He may be a lick for Marceau. He may be a lick for Martell. And he may be a lick for Maurice even. Courtney and his wife, Stormi, have the capital to invest in real estate, to invest in land acquisitions, to invest in development projects. They have the finances for that. So their deep pockets is an opportunity for Marceau and Tisha to climb up the ladder of success. However, that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing to have a network of people with resources. But it can be a bad thing if you're partnering with somebody who does not respect marriage. Courtney would have enough money to hide his cheating better than anybody. He has enough money to do that. I would not want my husband working with Marceau as a partner or anything. They can, consult with each other. He can be a mentor, but you're not going to be his buddy. I don't want your kind around my husband. No way in the world, especially since Pluto is entering Aquarius in a couple years. And I believe Stormi is a Leo. No. That's not a good transit for relationships. The oppositions to the sun is very detrimental to relationships. It's not always the case, but when Pluto is opposing your sun, you go through a painful transformation when it comes to your relationships, okay? And you don't want it to be because of cheating. You may want it to be because of something else, like injury or illness. These things happen. Everybody has to go through something. Fine. But you don't want that to be the reason, okay? You want it to be because of circumstances and situations beyond your control. And it sounds macabre to say this, but everybody is going to suffer from something. You want to make sure that that something is not because of foolishness, like what Martell did to Melody. You want to make sure that if something is going to happen, inevitably, you want it to be something that can be worked through, that's manageable, that you can fix. You can't fix what Martell did to Melody, okay? So yeah, if I was Stormi, I'm not trying to, mess up Marceau's money. I would not want my husband working with him. The same way Tisha does not want Martell and Marceau to work together. Same thing. Wives have the right to protect their families and their marriages at any cost. And Marceau has shown that he's okay with homies cheating because he has the mind of a cheater. He doesn't consider it cheating if he's paying the bills and coming home every night and taking care of his family. He may be the type to see his cheating as a way to save his family. Because if I can't have my extracurricular activities, I'm going to come home miserable and bitter, and my wife wouldn't want to be with me anymore. So if I was Stormi, I would keep my hawk eye on Courtney and Marceau, okay? Because a part of me feels like Marceau and even Maurice occasionally, but Marceau would put Courtney in situations where he would have to prove his loyalty to the group, to the clique, to the club. And on occasion, that would mean covering up his infidelity, right? We bros, we homies, we don't drop down on each other. We're going to deny. So Marceau would never expose Maurice for cheating. Maurice would never drop dime on Marceau and Martell cheating. They have a pact. I would not want my husband around someone like that. And that is why these men jumped down Louis' throat. When the couples were in Las Vegas a couple of seasons ago, Louis told Tiffany things that Marceau was saying about his wife. And he broke bro code when he did that. And so afterwards, Marceau made it his business to verbally haze Louis and to shame him and browbeat him into apologizing for having the audacity to tell his wife something that his homies or his friends or his co-workers or his associates were talking about. No, it's bros before hoes. That's how these men operate. And women operate differently. Women are like, I will do anything to hold on to my husband. I will throw my best friend under the bus. I will sleep with my best friend's man just to say I have a man. Many women are socialized into being male identified and men are socialized into being self-identified. And so you're always going to have clashes in relationships because of this. So yeah, if I was Stormi's friend, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to keep my eye on everybody in this situation. I don't trust nobody here. Not in a malicious, defensive, antagonistic way, but I would pay very, very, very close attention to my husband's relationship with Marceau. I would keep a hawk eye on the money. I would keep a hawk eye on any vacations or excursions together. Hell no, you're not going with them. No. And it's not to babysit him, but I would not trust the Scott's influence on Courtney. I'm sorry. Absolutely not. And I think Martell will be in on it too, because that's their bro. They're going to look out for him. If Courtney is working with us, we can, help Martell get back on his feet when it comes to getting into residential developments and all that good stuff. Anyway, the next scene I'm going to talk about takes place at Stormi's house. Stormi has a beautiful, beautiful country estate, a gorgeous home. And she invited all of the women of the cast to come to her show to, speak their piece and to heal and mend their relationships. And it all sounds good and well. But unfortunately, you cannot mend friendships with people who were never your friend in the first place. I think that Melody and Destiny have a better chance of mending fences than Melody and Tisha do. Unfortunately, Destiny is a very defensive person. A few months ago, I went in on Stormi because I think she overreacted to Destiny calling her sweetie. I didn't see it as an offense that was worthy of having an argument over. And I said that what happens when we are really defensive and easily triggered, it is hard to have conversations that broker peace. If you're always ready for the clapback and you always want an excuse to fight, you will always find a reason to fight. And, the audience attacked me and said, well, sweetie is disrespectful. You shouldn't say sweetie. Even if it was disrespectful, it is not an offense that's worthy of having an argument over. If someone's not threatening my life, if someone's not putting their hand in my face, if someone isn't stealing from me, right? And we're having a conversation and someone says one thing out of turn, I'm not going to jump down their throat to the point where the lines of communication are broken. I'm going to wait until she finishes her sentence, or whoever finishes their sentence, before I jump down their throat, because I don't know what they're going to say afterwards. What they say afterwards can give me context on how that word was being used. The word sweetie, in Destiny's case, was being used. I don't think she was using it in an offensive way. Now, I've heard women say sweetie in an antagonistic way, and I've heard women say sweetie in an endearing way, right? I've used it in an endearing way for men and women. So I don't see it the way that most of my audience saw it, or many of my audience saw it. And I don't agree with that one little word being the justification or basis for Stormi to lose her temper, or to feel the need to not lose her temper, but to overcorrect Destiny by saying, don't call me sweetie. That response builds resistance. It takes two people, right, to have an argument. If one person is dumb and stupid and saying ignorant stuff, I don't have to respond in kind. I can just look at them like they're stupid and just walk off, which is kind of what Destiny did with Stormi back in the day. But anyway, Stormi has been working towards becoming more gracious and a positive influence on the women on the show. That is a position that Kimmie also had in the first few seasons. So yeah, Stormi basically threw this shindig together, invited all the ladies. And of course, there was tension because none of these women really trust each other. I noticed that Stormi is working really hard to extend grace to Destiny. When she gave Destiny that little gift at her launch event and Destiny was defensive with her wall up, she did not allow that to trigger her. Stormi did not allow Destiny's defensiveness to trigger her because she was making a genuine gesture towards reconciliation or peace. If you're only doing the right thing because you think that it's going to elicit a specific response from someone, you're not doing it for the right reason. If Stormi got triggered and angry because Destiny was being prickly toward her, then her peace offering would not have been genuine or for the right reasons to me. The fact that Stormi did not allow Destiny's, her coldness to make her angry or trigger her means to me that she wants to, make peace. She does not want to be in a state of flight or fight every time she sees Destiny. So when Destiny first came on the scene, Melody would always refer to her as aggressive and angry. And I didn't necessarily see it, but I understand what she's trying to say now. Destiny is a very defensive person, and she's ready to attack at a moment's notice. She seems like the kind of person who wants to be offended by something so that she can have an excuse to attack you. This is what I said about Stormi when she first came on the scene. There are some women who want to take things the wrong way so that they can have an excuse to attack you. And this is how I feel about Destiny. Destiny does not let anything go. This is what Melody means by her being angry and aggressive. So Stormi started a game called What I Said, What You Heard, and What I Meant, right? Well, before that, they had this bootleg sage mantra situation. None of them want to do that. Burning sage is not going to do anything. It's not going to do anything if your energy is still funky. It does not work that way. But I respect what she was trying to do. But, you can't be giving off bad vibes and then talking about let's burn some sage as you're emanating negative energy towards the sage. That is not how it works. It's funny. But Kimmie said her piece. I got emotional for her because I know how hard she's struggling right now with her diagnosis, or I think she's been diagnosed because I think we saw previews of her cutting her hair off. But anyway, yeah, they have this whole mantra thing. They all say whatever that they want to say to make it seem as if they're trying to heal and be better. Fine. But at some point, Stormi makes a game up called What I Said, What You Heard, and What I Meant. And I was surprised at the reaction because the sage was supposed to burn away all of the negative energy. The irony of that did not escape me. So people burning sage saying it's get rid of negative energy. But when someone gives them an opportunity to talk about situations that have happened in the past to get rid of the negative energy, they're all triggered like, no, we're not doing this. So anyway, I thought that was funny. It seems like the people on this show, not everybody, but most of the cast has a difficult time rehashing disputes or conflicts in an objective way. Like the situation happened already. So now let's talk about what happened and how it happened and why it happened and, my reaction to the situation, and from an objective standpoint, in retrospect, right? It's possible to be introspective and retrospective at the same time. But when Stormi brought up the game, they weren't too eager about it. It's like they didn't want to go back to the same old because they don't trust each other. Hardly anybody in this room trusts each other. There's so much animosity and bitterness and distrust, and there's no grace extended to anybody on this cast. Some for good reason, some for not so good reason. It makes sense for Melody not to trust Tisha. It does not make sense for Destiny to not trust Tiffany, in my opinion, because Tiffany has bent over backwards trying to extend an olive branch to Destiny. I don't think she said anything in the past season that will be considered offensive. She's working on her tact. What I did not know is that Melanika was the person that Tiffany saw LeBeric with when she told Destiny that she saw him with another woman. I said before that Destiny and Melanika look very similar, right? So they had discussed it, but Destiny, in wanting to be offended, didn't even care that he was talking about somebody that she knew that he wasn't cheating with. It was the fact that she brought it up at her birthday event as if what? So if you knew the whole time that he wasn't with someone that he was cheating with, or was he not? Because Martell said Melanika cheated on her husband. With who? Why would Melanika be at an event that LeBeric is at? I don't see her as some sort of mover and shaker like that. Not the way that she was having Martell looking at his wine tasting event. No. What was she there for? I'm not saying they were cheating, but why was she there? And why would Destiny be so triggered that LeBeric was seen with another woman if she knew that it was Melanika the whole time? Right? They had discussed this. And, they look similar. Like, I'm not saying that Tiffany is malicious. I don't see Tiffany as a malicious person, but I see Destiny as somebody who wants an excuse to be mad all of the time, which is why Melody said she's aggressive and angry, because she don't let nothing go. So when they started playing the game, what I said, what you heard, and what I meant, Tiffany brought up what she said at Destiny's birthday party, I think, and what she said during the Las Vegas trip when she mentioned that Destiny needs to deal with that in Detroit, something like that. Some Detroit statement, basically saying that she was hood and she needs to take that bullshit attitude back to Detroit. Something like that. She didn't say it that verbatim, but that's kind of what she meant. And Destiny got offended by that. But that was a long time ago. And afterwards, Tiffany has apologized to Destiny profusely. They've hung out together. They've had conversations together. Even though I think Tiffany is messy boots when it comes to men, I like her energy on this show. She reminds me of a cucumber salad. You know how you eat a really spicy meal and you need something like in contrast to cool your tongue off? She reminds me of a cucumber salad. The women on this show are so headstrong and contentious and defensive and angry for the most part that I like Tiffany's unassuming presence. She's not a fashionista. She's not somebody who's trying to be down with the girls. She's okay being vulnerable. And some people say she's playing on her white woman's side by crying when she got confronted by Maurice and Kimmie. But she doesn't seem to be somebody who is a messy, toxic person who wants to throw shade or who wants to stay bitter. People have attacked her since the show started, and she doesn't come on the set with a chip on her shoulder. So even though Tiffany doesn't have a really central role in the show, I love her energy. She kind of balances the other women out. I hope they keep her on the show. Destiny, on the other hand, is a very defensive person. She keeps the tension and the drama going. This is contrast. It's not a coincidence to me that Destiny and Melody and Destiny and Tiffany are opposite signs. I think Destiny's a Taurus and both Melody and Tiffany are Scorpio. So they're playing off each other's shadow a lot. But I like Tiffany, and she was trying to bring up, just to have a conversation about what happened. And Destiny acted as if Tiffany talking about it was like her saying it again. Like she was just as offended by Tiffany recalling the event as she was when it first happened a couple years ago. Like, how are you still as mad about something that was apologized for years later? And she was, they were just reviewing what happened, right? Just for the sake of the exercise. What did I say? What did you hear? And what did I mean? And Tiffany couldn't even say what she said without Destiny being triggered. Again, as if it just happened for the first time. And Tiffany was like, we discussed this more than once, so I was trying to figure out why you were so offended about something that we talked about already. oh, it wasn't the right time. Okay, but you're still mad about it now, as if it just happened again. Destiny needs to relax and stop being so defensive, right? Now, we'll say this. Destiny was practically begging for Melody to stay her friend, in a sense. She wasn't as defensive with Melody initially as she is now. She gave Melody lots of chances, in a sense, because Melody was very angry with her for what was happening. She was going in. Melody probably felt some kind of way because she was still talking to Martell, and she felt like maybe Destiny was sharing Melody's business with him. I always said that Destiny and Melody's relationship falling apart was the most sad of all the cast members, because they seemed like genuine friends, and they were both going through a very difficult time. And it seems as if the demise of their relationship was not based on what was done actively. In the past, Destiny has called out Martell for his shenanigans and his disrespectful behavior towards Melody. But I think once the divorce was finalized and Destiny was still talking to Martell, even as Martell was trying to destroy her, I think that Melody became hyper-vigilant about protecting herself from the people around her, and justifiably so, because a narcissist like Martell will weaponize your relationships with your friends, your relatives, your associates. They'll weaponize them against you to get information, to triangulate, to spread lies about you. Like you saw what happened in season 2 or season 3, or I don't know, season 2A or 3, when Martell went around town telling everybody how bad Melody was. He went around town with a pregnant mistress telling people how awful Melody was. So Destiny kind of got caught in the crossfires of that situation. And a few weeks ago, I asked if Martell and Melody became close again, not romantically, but if they were cordial with each other, how would that affect his relationship with Destiny? How would that affect Destiny's relationship with Melody? And how would that affect Melody's relationship with Martell? Destiny and Melody kind of fell out because of Martell and Melody. If Martell and Melody are cool again, how will that affect Melody and Destiny's relationship? And we see in the next episode, Melody and Destiny finally having a conversation after weeks of not talking to each other. I don't know if it's because at this time Martell and Melody were on better terms. I have no idea. But a lot of things have been said and done, or said for the most part, between them that would, cause hurt feelings and them not to trust each other. But as I said in the beginning, it is hard to rebuild a relationship that was built on bullshit from the beginning. I don't think Melody and Destiny's relationship was built on BS. Not the same way Tisha and Melody's relationship was. I think Tisha is jealous of Melody, so they could never be friends. Oprah always said, you cannot be friends with people who want what you have. And the fact that Tisha's husband helped to destroy, I didn't say he was responsible for it, but he helped to destroy her, Melody's marriage, and Tisha had no empathy towards Melody, even after everything she was going through, that's a wrap. That's never going to get back to the way it was before, because it was always built on bullshit from the day one. I don't think that's necessarily the case for Destiny and Melody. Again, things have been said, but I don't think she has the same level of jealousy or malicious intent as Tisha. Not at all. I don't think it's just financially based either, because again, Destiny has shown herself to be somebody with a prickly personality who doesn't let nothing go. When she and Melody were going through it, she was letting a lot of stuff that Melody was saying go, right? Melody was very cold and hard and direct towards her, and for good reason if she felt like her best friend was being a double agent for her narcissistic ex-husband. It's just that it's a shame that their relationship is collateral damage for what Martell was doing to Melody. Anyway, so yeah, the event was not as productive as it could have been because these women don't trust each other, and most of these relationships are not genuine or were not genuine when they were in a better space. Destiny and Melody may be different. Kimmie is going through her own stuff, and I'll discuss that next. And back to Stormi. Stormi did a good job trying to keep the energy light, right? Whatever Destiny was saying, whatever energy the Destiny was throwing at her, she did not allow it to distract her or to get her off course, right? So yeah, Destiny's energy can make people feel a bit tense or whatever. But if you understand people and you give them grace, you can handhold them into a safe space where they feel vulnerable with you, because they know that you're not going to allow their defensiveness to make you defensive. And so it's not always healthy to have that dynamic, Both people have to be willing to work on themselves, but Stormi has worked on herself, I think, at this point, to the point where she's not allowing Destiny's energy to mess with her energy. And that's the point I was making before. You get a lot more accomplished when you don't allow people who are defensive or angry or bitter or traumatized or whatever, when you don't allow other people to mess with your energy. Now, to be fair, I think it's okay to match a person's energy for 3 reasons. 1, if they're physically attacking you. 2, if they're verbally threatening you. Or 3, if they're lying on you. To me, those are 3 instances where I think it's justified in confronting the person or not allowing the person to continue the conversation with whatever energy they came in with, right? So again, just to recap from before, when Destiny called Stormi sweetie, that wasn't enough, in my opinion, for Stormi to be like, don't call me sweetie, because she wasn't being attacked, in my opinion. She wasn't verbally being threatened. And she wasn't being physically assaulted, right? She wasn't even being yelled at. The stuff that Miss Wanda was saying about Melody and her children, those were lies. And so that's why I said Melody was justified in confronting Miss Wanda. I only had a problem with the way that it was done, only because I know people like Miss Wanda. And people like Miss Wanda enjoy fighting. I did not want to see Melody fighting in the streets. Melody is way too good for that. I don't want to see Melody fighting in the street because I know that Tisha will use that against her and say she's supposed to be all this high class woman and she's out here fighting in the streets. I did not want Melody defending her children to be weaponized against her, which is what would happen with people like Miss Wanda and Tisha and company. Okay, that was why I was saying it. Not because I didn't think that Melody had the right to defend herself. She does. But you have to be careful about how you defend yourself too, unfortunately, because some people will use that against you to justify, especially narcissists. Oh my God. Narcissists will abuse you to the point where you do something out of character, right? And then they'll use your response, your anger, your animosity, you attacking them to justify them abusing you in the first place. This is what Martell did to Melody. Melody got fed up about him cheating. He had this lady pregnant several times. He was cheating for several years, and Melody left the relationship. She started dating somebody else. She may have been intimate. And now Martell's going to use that to justify what he had been doing to Melody before he even found out she was cheating. The same thing would happen with Miss Wanda. Miss Wanda would attack Melody to the point where she defended herself, and then she would use Melody's defense of herself to justify talking shit about her kids. Destiny even mentioned that Melody was fighting with a grandma in the streets. You see how things can be flipped around when people want a reason to have a problem with you? If you allow people to influence your behavior in a negative way, they can use that against you. Anybody can use it against you when they're mad at you. You don't want to give them ammunition to do that, right? And so Martell was trying to shame Melody by saying that she had an affair, whatever, because he wanted to use that indiscretion, quote unquote, right, to justify his wayward, disrespectful, and aberrant behavior. So yeah, what Stormi was trying to do, I commend her efforts. The same way Kimmie tried to, get the girls to come together for the Galentine's event. But if people don't trust each other and their relationships were built on BS from the beginning, it's going to be hard to reconcile or to mend fences, because the jealousy and the animosity and the lack of grace and empathy will always be prevalent in those relationships. When it comes to Destiny and Melody, they have a better chance of coming together and making peace because, Destiny is genuinely hurt by Melody. Like, that was her good friend. You can tell by her facial expressions that she's hurt by Melody. And both of them hurt each other. But before I move on to Kimmie, so I appreciate the fact that Stormi was modeling the behavior that she wanted to see from the other cast members. She was not allowing Destiny's energy to change her energy in a negative way. And I've talked about this multiple times on this channel about your energy being in alignment, or your actions being in alignment with the outcomes you're looking for, right? If you're looking for peace, you're going to broker peace no matter what happens. I've been in plenty of situations where I was confronted by ratchet women who knew nothing about me, who were jealous of me for some weird reason. Well, I know what it is now. Who were jealous of me for some reason, who didn't know me and who had, a problem with me. And I was confronted by these women. These are multiple occasions, different situations, different environments. And I'm being confronted by people who don't know me, who don't like me. And by the end of the conversation, instead of me being triggered and becoming defensive by their ignorance, I take the time to talk to them and listen to them. Not because I have to, but because I don't know these people and I don't want random enemies walking around. And I don't want a reason to fight with somebody every day over something I don't know about that has nothing to do with me. So in just about every instance or situation where I was confronted as a grown woman by other women who did not like me for any reason, I had to model the behavior that I wanted to see from these women. I had to listen to what they were saying. And they weren't really saying anything. They were just like having an attitude with me about nothing. But I had to understand that these women were operating from a place of insecurity or ignorance, right? Insecurity or ignorance. You don't know me, or there's something about me that triggers your insecurities, whether it's my weight, whether it's the way I dress, whether it's my diction, whether it's my, my friendships. I don't know. So because I did not want to get in a fight with these women, especially not at work, especially not in the streets, I had to model certain behavior that would get me the results that I wanted. If I wanted to fight, then I would speak to them as if I wanted to fight. But I don't want to fight in the streets. I'm not a fighter, but I am somebody who doesn't back down from a fight either. I don't want to start mess, but I will finish it, right? I have Mars squared Neptune. So there's this oscillation between being too nice, right? Almost passive aggressive, even, to being very aggressive. So I try to find a middle ground. I'm constantly trying to find the middle ground between doing too much or doing too little. And by repairing my relationship with myself, I learned how to repair my relationship with other people, or even help people repair their own relationships. And in astrology, this is what happens when you integrate the square aspect in the chart. You learn how to adapt to situations and circumstances instead of allowing the situation to knock you off your square. I'm still a work in progress, but from my experience of, trying to work on myself, I've learned that I have to be the change that I'm looking for. I cannot expect people to treat me better than I treat myself. Ideally, that would happen, but that's not the way it works. People treat you the way that you treat yourself. So if you're always defensive and always aggressive and always angry, more than likely, you're going to meet people who match that energy. That's just the way that it is. Okay. So anyway, on to Kimmie. This scene was very touching for me because last year I went through my own health scare that was similar. Kimmie and Maurice were talking about the fact that Kimmie found 2 lumps in her chest area. One in her breast and one in her lymph nodes. I wonder if these lumps were found on the side where she injected the jab, because there were some studies showing that the jab can exacerbate or trigger pre-existing health conditions. And I won't get into that now. If you guys want me to talk about it later on in another commentary, I will. But yeah, that's a very touchy political subject. But I wonder if the lumps that they found in her body were on the same side of the injection with the vaccine that they forced people to do last year, especially healthcare professionals. So in the scene, Maurice and Kimmie were talking about just Kimmie's fears and her anxiety about the situation, her not knowing. And from my experience, the not knowing, the wait is just as painful or scary as knowing almost. It's almost as bad as that because you're constantly worrying about what ifs and your mind catastrophizes the situation to the worst case scenario because you want to be prepared. So yeah, it seems as if Kimmie may have breast cancer only because in the later episodes we saw that she was cutting her hair off and she was making an emotional announcement to her family. Okay, I think it was sometime last year I mentioned that Saturn's transit into Aquarius is having a very harsh effect on the fixed signs, Taurus, Scorpios, Leos, and Aquarians. And I have seen this personally because most of my family are Taurus, Scorpios, Leos, or Aquarians. Pluto is entering Aquarius next year. So this is just a precursor for what's to come. I'm not saying that Kimmie's prognosis is going to get worse. I don't think so. I won't put that out there. I'm going to pray for her health. But these are situations and circumstances that the fixed signs can expect more of in the coming 20 years because Pluto is going to be in Aquarius until 2045, I believe. I have to look at my calendar again. And, Pluto is the planet of painful transformation due to crisis. And we saw what happened with Bartel. Pluto's been in Capricorn since 2008, how that affected his relationship. We saw what happened with Wendy Williams. Pluto has been again in Capricorn since 2008, opposing her son, and that affected her marriage. We saw what happened with Tia Mowry. Pluto has been in Capricorn again. Since 2008, it's been opposing her sun in a 7th house of relationship. So there's a lot of difficult or challenging changes that happen when Pluto is transiting or aspecting any of the personal planets, especially in the angular houses, the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th houses. On another note, today, November 8th, there's a full moon in Taurus. There's a full moon eclipse in Taurus. And this full moon eclipse is in conjunction with Uranus in Taurus, squaring Saturn in Aquarius, and opposing the Sun, Mercury, and Venus in Scorpio. The fixed signs are in for a doozy over the next 6 months, including me, because this eclipse is lighting my entire chart up, and not in a necessarily good way. So I'm looking forward to the nonsense and the drama and the whatever that's coming. It's not always bad, but with Uranus, Saturn, and the nodes involved, things can go from extremes, positive or negative. And I really don't need any more drama in my life. Not because of anything I'm actively doing, but because of, circumstances and situations beyond my control. That's just the way that the transits operate sometimes. Sometimes you got to pay for things that you've done. And sometimes you have to learn how to navigate in situations where you really have absolutely no control, because it's not your fault, but it's just an opportunity for you to learn, right? And so, that's what fixed signs, including myself, will be going through over the next 6 months at the minimum. When it comes to Kimmie, though, this cancer diagnosis, if she does have cancer, which I think she does, I'm hoping she does not, but if she does have this illness, this is a great opportunity for her to take a step back and be pampered for once, and have someone take care of her and look after her and do the housework for her, right? Hopefully, this will teach Maurice to appreciate how much work Kimmie actually does, how hard it is to maintain a household and a full-time job. And hopefully, Kimmie will not feel guilty for being sick, if she is sick. And I'm hoping that she's not again. But if she is sick, the last thing on her mind should be what Maurice is doing. As a matter of fact, the last thing on her mind will be what Maurice is doing, because she's trying to fight for her life if she has cancer, okay? And speaking from personal experience, when I thought I had cancer last year, the entire world shut down for me. I became even more of a recluse in a sense. I did not want to be around too many people until I figured things out. I was concerned about how my health would affect the people that I love the most. Not really me, because I can deal with whatever. But it's painful when you think about being sick and how it affects your children, or it affects your friends, or it affects your parents or your siblings. Like, you don't want them to feel bad. And that's what makes it even harder, seeing how much pain your loved ones are in. And I think that's what Kimmie was going through when she was talking to Maurice about, her fears. I think she was more afraid for her son than she was for herself, because, as a woman and as an adult and as a mother, she's used to taking care of herself. She can deal with whatever, right? She's very strong. I'm not saying she's not worried about anything, but I do think that she's more worried about how her situation and her health will affect her husband and her children, right? Even her stepson, Monster, and then her, because that's a part of it's guilt, it's fear, it's not wanting to be a burden, it's sadness, it's a lot of emotions in one. And so I really hope that Kimmie is getting the best treatment. If she is ill, I would not advise her to get any more jabs at all. Boosters, nothing. Because there was an Atlantic article a few weeks ago published by this doctor, a scientist, or researcher who had lymphoma. And what happened was he was diagnosed with lymphoma before he got the jab. But then what happened was, when he got the jab, on that side of his body, the lymphoma spread rapidly within 24 hours. He felt even worse. And then he got the CT scans. I think he said either CT scans or PET scans or something. He got some scans done, and they were shocked. It seems like the jab made the situation worse. And that is what the study found. I'm going to post a link to that article in the description box. I'm not a medical doctor. Kimmie can do whatever she wants to do, but I would hold off on getting any more jabs until this was resolved, because I've spoken to several doctors personally, because I've been to the doctors many times since then, and they've told me that this situation that they're putting in your body can trigger pre-existing conditions, period. And so, I'm going to extend my full support to Kimmie hopefully her story can give more nuance to the show, right? Not to say that you should be used for that, but over the past few seasons, the majority of the show has been about divorce and bickering and pettiness. And like Kimmie said, in the confessional, it would be good for her to share her story with other women who are going through the same struggle, who are having the same fears and the same feelings of isolation and sadness. And it would soften up the platform. It would make it more mature, in my opinion. It's not about petty squabbles and beefs. Maybe Kimmie's story can be a reset button for the show, and the girls or the women, the cast can, become cordial or something, because life's too short. I can imagine Tisha, life's too short. We shouldn't be fighting over these things. Oh my God. And then, my heart really goes out to Kimmie, because I was getting emotional during her scene, because I was thinking about that dark period that I went through before I got an official diagnosis. So what ended up happening last year, I had a medical emergency. I went to the ER. They gave me some scans, and they was like, "Oh, you have cancer." I said, "What?" That didn't make any sense to me, because I'm not a smoker, I'm not a drinker, and so on. But I looked at my chart, and that diagnosis was given to me when Saturn was exactly opposite my ascendant to the minute. And so I was like, okay, so it was one or two things happening here. Now, in my natal chart, Jupiter is opposing my ascendant. So Saturn was on top of Jupiter. And I suspected that that's one of the reasons why my prognosis was not as negative as it could have been, because I was being protected by the energy of Jupiter. But it took several weeks for me to get an official diagnosis because of COVID, and everything was backed up. Everything was shut down. Like, the biopsy was scheduled for October 21st, almost 2 months later from the medical emergency, because so many nursing staff were fired. The waiting list was so long. We were in the middle of the shutdown pandemic. And so I was extra nervous about that. Like, is this thing spreading while I'm waiting? So while I was waiting, I went to several other ologists, every other ologist you could think of possible, to figure out exactly what the problem was. And the week before, my insurance company finally approved the PET scan. And like one day before I was scheduled to get my biopsy, my doctor called and said, "You do not have cancer. You have something, something, something." I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. But I was still experiencing PTSD from just the constant worrying about this and how it would affect my family. And, it's just a lot of thoughts running through your mind when you're going through something like this. And I'm a natural hypochondriac anyway, so I'm always thinking something's wrong, just because I feel like if I'm worried about it all the time, I have more control over it. I'll be hypervigilant and proactive in dealing with my health if I'm constantly thinking about being sick or constantly worrying about getting sick. And full transparency here, this is one of the reasons why I cannot watch people do or eat nasty things, because in my mind, as I'm watching it happen, it's happening to me. As I'm watching people doing and say nasty things, I'm imagining it happening. That's the kind of imagination in mind that I have. So yeah. Anyway, back to Kimmie. I hope that she's, getting the best treatment. She should be getting the best treatment. I'm happy that the show is some extra income for her, so that, she can maintain her lifestyle. She can maintain the home that she has. She doesn't feel pressured to work because of her health issues. I'm happy about that. I'm sending positive energies to her so that she can heal from this if there is something wrong. If not, I'm sending protective energies to her so that she doesn't get sick. But if she is ill, I would suggest she does not get another booster shot, because, Maurice is going to have to step up now. He's going to have to be the man that he says he is. He's going to have to prove that he loves his wife for who she is, not because of what she does for him as a stepmother, as a housewife, as a working woman, as his confidant, as his support system. And I think he's up for the challenge. I think he's mature enough for it. Hopefully Kimmie won't be too concerned about his sexual urges while she's trying to recover from treatment, because a lot of women are afraid of that, of their partner not being attracted to them anymore, or their partner cheating on them because they don't have the capacity physically to have sex. They're drained, they're tired, they're sick. What is really ironic is that since the beginning of this show, the men have said that women should not turn down sex if they're capable of having sex. And capable means as long as you're not dead or sick, you should be having sex. And now Maurice will be tested. in that regard. In my opinion, Kimmie should not be worried about having sex unless she wants to have sex, right? But she should be focused on recovering and preserving her strength and not feeling pressured or guilted into having sex. But that is something that I never agree with the men saying that, the reason why Martell cheated was because Melody told him no, even though she was capable of giving him sex. What does that mean? Does that mean that her body is available? What about her mind? What about her heart? What if she's tired? What if she's sick? What if she's angry? What if she doesn't want to deal with you right now? What if she's not in the mood? No, she's capable of doing it. So she should. That's so ignorant and disgusting to me. I hope that Maurice is not treating Kimmie this way. And I don't think that he is. I don't think he's stupid enough to do that. I think he has some sort of respect for his wife enough not to make her feel some kind of way about not having sex for a while. What is sad about this situation with Kimmie is the fact that she always talked about her being a single mother for years and raising her child on her own, even raising Maurice on her own. And when she finally gets to have the life that she's always wanted, the husband, the child's independent, she's still grown and sexy, got her own money, her own businesses, on a TV show, like she's doing her thing. And as soon as she's like doing her thing, Saturn hits, bam, and Uranus hits at the same time, because Uranus and Saturn are intense aspects to her sun. Saturn is conjunct her sun in a sense, energetically. I'm not talking about by degree, but by sign and element, it is conjunct her sun, and Uranus is squaring her sun, which is the 4th, 1st, 7th, and 10th house. And the 7th house, along with the 6th, the 8th, and the 12th, are the houses of health. Okay, so this is something more than likely that's pretty much predictable a lot of times. And I don't like to do medical astrology as much because that's very sensitive. And I can tell you where issues may come from, but I don't like to give prognosis or diagnosis at all. I'm not a medical professional. But anyway, yeah, I hope that Kimmie can have her happily ever after. She'll get through this illness. The ladies can come together and put their pettiness to the side. I'm not saying be besties again, but, reorient the show in a more positive, affirming, supportive, and loving direction. That's what the show needs, a reset. And I think Kimmie's unfortunate situation is a great opportunity for the ladies to appreciate the blessings that they all have. They have good health. They're attractive. They're on a reality show, a hit reality show. They're making money. They got kids. Please, the petty bullshit, it can be put to the side for a little while because there are other things that are more important. And so, yeah. And Kimmie is the least problematic person on the show. So for her to be hit with this is, doubly more unfortunate. It's unfortunate. But she'll be fine. I'm sure she'll be fine. She's young. She'll be good. It's just that, we all get tested with trials and tribulations. Everybody. And she's in her 50s. So it's not to say that women in their 50s are old. But DJ Vlad said something that was very poignant for me. He said that a doctor told him that from the ages of 12, 13, right, nature says that you're ready to reproduce. So by the time you're in your 30s or in your 40s, you would have had 20 reproductive years. So you're not a priority anymore. You were supposed to have reproduced within those 20 years. That's kind of what he said. And he was like, at that point, nature is working to get you off the planet because you would have fulfilled your biological obligation to the planet to have kids. After that, you don't really need to be here anymore because the next generation is what's most important. And in some cultures, that's true. I remember speaking to someone who I used to work with, and he said that his children are the most important things to him. He's from Bangladesh. He was like, the difference between Black Americans and Bengali people is that as soon as I had my kid, my entire life revolved around my children. Everything that I do is about them because I'm no longer important. My child is the future. I'm no longer the future. I am the past once I have this baby, right? And so, yeah, I'm not saying that all Black Americans do that. I'm not saying all Black Americans don't put their kids first. No, I'm not saying that at all. But I think Kimmie's situation is a great opportunity for our community to talk about death and planning for death and wills and trusts and insurance and all the things that a lot of baby boomers do not want to talk about because they want to think that they're immortal and they will live forever. And a lot of them, especially Black baby boomers, resent the idea of planning for their death. They think that writing out a will will make their death happen faster. They don't like having insurance for themselves. This is why there's so many GoFundMe insurance policies where people are asking to pay for funeral expenses because their parents did not make sure that they had life insurance. They did not make sure they had a living will. They did not make sure that paperwork was in order. So Kimmie's situation isn't all bad. This is a great time for us to demystify death or illness. And as a community, we can go back to normalizing preparing for our future. Our elders who were born in the 1900s, up until 1935, 1940, they were doing that by and large, even up until 1950 and 60. After the crack epidemic, or, during that period, a lot of people were dying so fast from drug overdoses. A lot of people were so sick and so broke and broken, they didn't care about their future. They didn't care about their kids' future. All they cared about was getting high. I think that's one of the reasons why we stopped planning for our deaths even. It's not the only reason, but it's one of the reasons. Because back in the day, life insurance was very popular in the Black community. Wills and trusts were very, popular in the Black community. That's how we maintained our wealth. That's how we maintain our resources. So the generation of people born from 1940 to 1970, they kind of threw that whole tradition in the garbage with the drug epidemic. They did not care about their kids. Not all of them, because some of them were on point. It wasn't all Black people. But by and large, that culture of planning for your kids and your future was thrown by the wayside. Once we integrated into a mainstream society, and once we started using drugs and alcohol and dying in droves to the point where we didn't even have enough time to get our affairs in order. If you died from a heroin overdose or a crack overdose or cocaine overdose, whatever it was happening back then, you're not thinking about a will. You're thinking about your next hit. But anyway, not to go too far, of course, this episode was good. I enjoyed it. Besides the basketball game, that was so embarrassing. I mean, all of them were shooting bricks and they were laying up bricks too. How do you miss a layup? But anyway, later on today, I'm going to post my astrological analysis of the late Aaron Carter. I'm going to look at his cause of death from my estimation because I saw his chart and I didn't like what I saw. So I don't believe the official story, period. I'm not saying I'm correct, but I'm going to explain why I think that he may have suffered the same fate as Whitney Houston. Oh, I forgot to mention something. So a few months ago, I did an astrological analysis of the show Love and Marriage Huntsville, and I talked about the effects of Pluto on the cast of the entire show. I said that the energy signature of the show, which is dominated by Pluto, had a transformative effect on Melody, Martell, Marceau, and Tisha's relationship. And I think I mentioned in that commentary that because I did not know Maurice and Kimmie's birth date and time, that I wasn't aware of exactly how Pluto would be affecting these two. If Maurice is a Libra and Kimmie is in Aquarius, Pluto is transiting his 4th house of home and family, which is squaring his house of marriage, and is opposing his 10th house of career and social status, right? For Kimmie, the transit of Pluto was in her 12th house of hospitalizations, hidden enemies, and health. Okay. And with Kimmie's unfortunate situation, right, with this transformative experience, we can see how Maurice's 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th houses are affected by this transit the same way Martell and Melody's 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th houses were affected, as well as Marceau and Tisha's 1st, 4th, and 7th, and 10th houses. Marceau and Tisha, I mentioned that they were able to become more powerful or successful as a result of the show, but they had to sacrifice something in order to get to that point. I don't think it's over yet, but they had to pay a price as far as having their relationship criticized. People were digging up Tisha's criminal records, and they were digging up financial records. Like, people were really getting into their business, and this is the effect of Pluto as well. It causes transformations that are based on things that we don't see, right? We don't see affairs or cheating until they're exposed, as in the case of Martell and Melody. We don't see people's criminal history and background unless we dig up and look for that, right? We don't know nothing about that because they're not going to talk about it unless, people look for it or people ask them about those things. We don't see health issues until they come to a crisis point, as in the case with Kimmie and Maurice. So the influence of Pluto on this show is constructive, and it's also destructive in a sense that, as I mentioned before, Pluto wants a sacrifice. You're going to have to pay for what you want, right? So if you want success and fame, what are you willing to do to get that? who or what are you willing to sacrifice in exchange for that power, right? And so these experiences that all the cast are having now, Melody losing her marriage and her family, Martel losing his social status, his reputation, his businesses, his home, his family, his life is smashed up by Pluto as well. And Marceau and Tisha, I believe they're holding strong because there's an exaltation of Saturn and Libra in one of their charts. So they know how to navigate this energy a little bit better than some of the other cast members do. They're not going to have to pay as much in a sense. They're going to work it to their advantage. Energetically, they are in a great position to work the show to their benefit because both of them are Libras. And I believe that Marceau has Saturn in Libra, which is an exaltation. It is very strong here. So whatever is thrown at Marceau, he knows how to capitalize off it. He knows how to adapt. He's very intelligent and he's very shrewd, which is one of the reasons why I suspect that he is, brokering a friendship with Courtney. I thought Stormi was Melody's friend. I didn't know Courtney and Stormi were cool with the Scotts. So yeah, he is a strategist and he's a planner. And so it's not a bad thing, but I just want to say, this show has transformed all the cast members for better or worse, right? I think Kimmie is going to be fine. She has great health insurance. She has a great support system. She has loving, supportive followers and family members. She'll be fine. But it did not escape me that Kimmie is going through her own crisis, just like Melody did, just like Martel did, just like, the Scotts did. And Maurice is going through with Kimmie. And it's unfortunate, but I think that's the nature of the show. Transformation and transmutation of negative energies into positive situations for all the cast members. So this thing with Kimmie can be turned on its head into something that's positive. Just like Melody's divorce from Martel is a positive thing, right? For her and her family. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I look forward to reading your comments. Please like, share, and subscribe. For some reason, YouTube is taking away my subscriptions. I don't know why. But if you notice that you had just subscribed before and you're not subscribed anymore, feel free to subscribe again and hit the notification bell for new content. All right, guys, I'll speak to you soon.